In the garden at Holme. It's a lovely winter's day and it's a great time of year to get outside, get some wonderful winter sun, get away those winter blues, no seasonal affective disorder, build up your vitamin D levels, and let's go and do some mulching. So we've now moved into the most mature area of the garden where we're using a totally natural system to mulch the soil, and that's basically leaves falling to the ground from the trees and shrubs around us, getting down here, and this is where the soil fungi and bacteria can work on them, and they'll link up with the root systems of the plants around, and they'll take the nutrients out of these leaves back into the plant and make it available. So if we come in close here, you'll see these white bits here. That's the fungal mycelium working on it. So there's the food source, and they're taking that away to the plants. And just look here at the crumb structure of the soil. That's open. I can easily get my finger in there. It's really nice and loose. That means the water and the air and the nutrients can get into the soil really nice and quickly, and so we don't get any compaction, and absolutely beneficial to the plants. However, not everybody has sufficient leaves and from trees and shrubs above to have a natural system like this, or they might be more tidy minded, and I fall into that category in areas of the garden I want a tidier effect. So what we're going to do now is go and look at systems where we don't use the lateral leaf litter, we use other mulches to create the benefits that we require. So we've now come to an area of the garden that's a little bit more manicured, and where we generally rake up the leaves and move them to local compost piles, and then we replace that with another type of mulch. In this case, where we've got trees and shrubs, we're using wood chip. On the areas where we've got more perennials and annuals, then we'll use a finer mulch, more like a compost that you might buy from the garden centre. See here the wood chip with that lovely dark soil underneath, full of activity. You can see some of the roots coming to the surface, linking up with those fungi we looked at earlier. And that layer of mulch, you can see actually over the years how the border's built up a bit because of the amount of mulches that we have. The types of mulch that you would generally use are your own compost, bought in compost from the garden centre. You would use wood chip, again wood chip from your own recycling, gravels, and that's about it really. So we have here what we call Woodland Mulch. It's effectively a wood chip that's also got a little bit of bark in it as well, but it's been stacked, and it would have been started off a pretty silvery, lightweight, light colour, but as it goes through the composting process, it gets darker with the wetness. Once that's been stacked for a few months, it goes through its initial stage of breakdown, and that makes it a lot more, a lot easier for the nutrient to get out into the soil, and also the fungi and bacteria are already present in here. Masses and masses of bacteria and fungi in here, beneficial ones, probably in that bit of soil here. I pick that up. There's more bacteria in there than there are people on the planet. Bark chips, I would say, because of their coarseness, and we're going to put them down about 4 inches thick over the top of the soil, and that will completely suppress the weeds. Any weed seeds that are lying on the surface will not see the light and will not be able to get germinating through that level of mulch, and that's what we're trying to do with that. And then gradually over the next couple of years, the fungi and the soil bacteria will work on this. It will end up at a smaller level, and all of that nutrient gets sucked back into the plants. Earlier this year, we put this wood chip down, and it's not as thick as if we put it down originally, because obviously it's starting to work its way back into the soil. But the benefits that this will provide, particularly on our dry, sandy soil where it drains really, really quickly, is we need to get our plants to root deep, and also we need to preserve water in the soil. So the first way the mulch will do that is where the sunlight in the summertime is directly hitting the soil surface, that will interrupt that and stop and keep the soil surface cooler. It will also slow the wind speed down across the surface of the soil, and thereby reduce evaporation losses on the soil. But the main thing it will do is encourage microbial activity in worms and other critters within the ground to tunnel up and down through the soil, allowing air and water to pass quickly deeper into the soil, and that will encourage your plants to root deeper into the soil. With the plants rooting deep, even if the soil surface is dried out, they'll get all the moisture that they need for sustaining themselves. Okay, so firstly, it's really important to make sure you've got rid of any perennial weeds that you don't want growing in the bed, because the perennial weeds have still got the capability of just pushing their way back to it. Clean the soil first, get it weed free, get your edges done so they're nice and tight and sharp, and actually quite often we'll dig a bit of a trench there so it doesn't come over onto the grass. And then we're going to just tip it over on with a wheelbarrow and then spread it around. Ideally 4 inches thick, but if you've been mulching regularly, 2 inches is plenty. Okay, so let's go and do a bit of mulching. So I find it easier to use a fork, as long as you go in deep enough, it won't crumble away, because it's actually quite difficult to push a spade or a shovel into the stack. So a fork goes in much easier, but you do have to go deep like that. If you go shallow, I don't do. Try not to dig the surface too often, because that's when you release carbon from the soil. But it's going straight back down again here. Right, these are perennial weeds that we just need to see. These are some grasses here. Dandelion leaf there as well. Just get them out and get them out by the roots as well. Then make sure the soil's nice and smoothed over. And you've got a nice deep edge on the bed there. So that when we put our mulch on in a second, stones. Difficult to garden the soil when you've got them in there, so I always just lob them on the bottom of the hedge. So when we've got it to that level, it's ready for the mulch. Don't tip it over the grass, tip it onto the bed. Then we can just smooth it out. Push it up to the edge. You can see, pull it away. Got like 4 inches over the top there. And minimum of 2 inches and preferably really 4 inches deep. 2 inches will do some good, but inevitably if you haven't prepped the soil and you've got lumpy soil like that, as you put the mulch on, mulch will go 4 inches deep there, and then it'll only be an inch deep there, and you can get some germination going on higher bits. So it's quite important to smooth the soil off first. 4 inches put down originally. 1 year later, will probably about 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick. Second year, it'll look quite soily back into the soil. So that's amelioration, and there'll be also some carbon release back into the atmosphere as well. What you're trying to do is get as much down into the soil as possible and working with the plants. So yeah, after about 2 years, it will have nearly disappeared. 3 years definitely disappeared. Nice sharp finish on the edge of the bed. So that's the tidier gardeners amongst you that want that you put that nutrient back into the system. Now you'll have lovely flower beds in the summer. So I hope that's helped demystify mulching for you. That's just one of the jobs that we want to be getting on with during the winter, and I've got more to get on with now, but I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe, and if you've got any questions you'd like further information on, please put it in the comments box below. And Happy New Year, happy gardening, have a great season.